Hey ladies and gentlemen, Steven here from Redolessence and welcome back to another video. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really do appreciate it and I hope that this video finds you well. In today's episode, we're going to be taking a closer look at the brand new 2020 release from the company Lacoste, and this one is called Lacoste Match Point, so make sure to stay tuned. Now, before I begin my fragrance review of Lacoste Match Point, the brand new 2020 release, I do want to mention that if you are a fan of fragrance-related content, if you like fragrance reviews and coverage on brand new fragrances here on YouTube, but also top 10 videos, giveaways, unboxings, special guests, and pretty much anything having to do with fragrances, please do consider supporting this channel by subscribing to it. All you have to do is click on that red button in the corner, and of course, while you're at it, please make sure to enable notifications by clicking on the bell icon. This way, whenever I do upload these videos, they will get delivered straight to your feed. So here we have it, brand new for 2020 Lacoste Match Point. I own several Lacoste fragrances. I have Lacoste Live, L1212 Noir, and I have sampled pretty much all of them. And what I can say about Lacoste fragrances is they are definitely compliment-getting fragrances, very safe, mass appealing, easy to wear, and I don't think there's any exception with this fragrance right here. I actually purchased this one from an online retailer out of France. I don't think this fragrance is yet available in the United States, but if I do find an e-commerce link, I'm gonna go ahead and leave it down below. I actually ordered this in the beginning of July. It took like a month for it to arrive, but I've definitely been spending a little bit of time with it as well. Now, I do want to mention when it comes to popular designer fragrances on the market, you have two separate varieties mostly. You have the sweeter type fragrances, so you have something like a Paco Rabanne Invictus, Versace Eros, Azzaro Wanted, so on and so forth. But then you also have the fresh fragrances. You have Dior Sauvage, Bleu de Chanel, Mr. Burberry, Dolce & Gabbana K. This one is definitely leaning on the side of the fresh fragrances. It does have this burst of grapefruit in the opening. It also has some bright minty ingredients in the note breakdown, geranium and basil being two of them. So I'm excited to tell you about the smell of this fragrance. Let's start with the presentation. Now, the box for this fragrance, as well as the label on the bottle, kind of reminds me of a bird's eye view of a tennis court. Your serial number is punched into the box on the bottom of the box. All of your ingredients are listed on the back, and the Lacoste logo may be located on the top of the box. Now, the green liquid inside of the box has this emerald color to it, and it's almost evocative of nature or the color of a tennis ball. And as a matter of fact, you see this depression on the bottom of the bottle here kind of reminds me of a tennis ball. The cap for this fragrance is supposed to look like the handle of a tennis racket, and all of your information is printed on the back of the label, which is adhered to the front of the bottle. Now, the cap for this fragrance does click into place very securely. You can pick this one up from the cap, and the distribution on the atomizer is nice and wide. Let's continue with the smell. As soon as this fragrance opens up, you are going to get this really strong grapefruit note. So yes, it does have this strong citrus appeal in the opening, and if you are a fan of citrus-driven fragrances, you're definitely going to enjoy like the first 20 minutes of this fragrance because that grapefruit note is quite strong. Once you give that grapefruit note a chance to basically die out, what you're going to be left with is this freshly laundered clothing sort of a vibe. So it has this clean laundry, this sort of cotton feel in the dry down, and it's also like a little bit musky as well, and I kind of like that clean smell that it brings to the table. So it opens up very citrusy. There's just a tad bit of sweetness, kind of like a fruity sweetness. I'm not exactly sure where it's coming from because there aren't any overly fruity notes in the note breakdown, with the exception of the grapefruit, of course. But when you give it a chance to dry down, all of that dissipates and you're left with this freshly laundered clothing sort of a vibe, which I think is very likable. It's very pleasant. And as far as some of these other notes in the note breakdown, like there's vetiver in here, right? I don't get a whole lot of vetiver, and I know that there are a couple different varieties of vetiver. You have the squeaky clean vetivers, very much like Mugler cologne, but then you have these dry, dirty, earthy, rooty vetivers, kind of like an Encre Noir by Lalique. This one is neither one of those. As a matter of fact, I'm actually not picking up on a lot of vetiver in here. If anything, I'm getting more of that cashmeron note, which is a synthetic molecule, but it's definitely giving off this very clean, musky vibe that I think is very likable. And I have sampled cashmeron in its independent state, and I can definitely pick up on cashmeron in this fragrance as well. Now, this fragrance did actually remind me, or it does remind me, I should say, of two other fragrances, and coincidentally, they're both from the same company. So this fragrance kind of reminds me of Dolce & Gabbana Light Blue for Men, and coincidentally, that fragrance also has a lot of grapefruit in the opening, and as the fragrance dries down, it actually reminds me a lot of Dolce & Gabbana Intenso, and that fragrance has basil and geranium in it. This fragrance also has basil and geranium in it. So I was racking my brains and I was thinking about it for weeks, trying to think of what is this fragrance reminding me of, and for a split second I almost thought it was reminding me of Liz Claiborne Realities because of the green liquid, and so I thought that that might have created a little bit of a parallel. But and also when I think about it, kind of reminded me of like this late 90s early 2000s feel. It didn't necessarily remind me of a specific happening or occasion in my life, but more so of like a general time period. And I was racking my brains, and then it eventually occurred to me that it does remind me a lot of Dolce & Gabbana Intenso. So it has this very pleasant citrusy musky feel that I think makes it a very viable contender when you're putting it up against fragrances like Bleu de Chanel and Dior Sauvage and Dolce & Gabbana Light Blue. For the match point, I feel like this one could do really well, and I think that if you're putting it up side by side with those fragrances, I think they will probably garner the same amount of compliments, and they will do well, just as well, with the general public. And so for this reason, I'm actually looking forward to this fragrance becoming more widely available, just to see what the general reaction is going to be like among people who have an opportunity to sample it, because I do actually find it to be a very pleasant scent, albeit not one that's super unique or original or something that does something totally new, because it does remind me of other fragrances that I've tried throughout my fragrance journey. But I do think it's a very pleasant fragrance, and I think it's going to be liked by a lot of people. Let's go ahead and finish things off with my overall assessment. So first up, in terms of the uniqueness and the overall smell, I mean, I was able to compare it to a few other fragrances that I've tried in the past, those being Dolce & Gabbana Light Blue for Men, and then it kind of dries down to this sort of Dolce & Gabbana Intenso vibe. But nevertheless, it is a very pleasant fragrance. I think it's going to do really well in the compliment department, and it's not the fragrance that is going to turn anybody off. In terms of the longevity for this one, you're going to get about 4 to 5 hours on your skin. It will get you through the workday. This might also end up being one of those fragrances that you find yourself reapplying later on in the afternoon if you want to get that initial opening of the fragrance. If you like that burst of citrus in the opening, you want to be reminded of it, I would probably carry around a decant. I think in terms of the projection, it does really well for the first hour. It doesn't start to sit much closer to the skin, kind of becoming a skin scent, until about that 4.5 hour marks, that 4 to 4.5 hour mark. So the projection is pretty good, but it's not beast mode, keeping in mind that this is eau de toilette concentration. In terms of the versatility, I find this to be a pretty casual fragrance. I think it's also quite youthful as well. I think that this one would do really well in the hotter weather, but it does make for the perfect office fragrance. So if you are wearing this one indoors in a climate controlled environment, yes, you can wear it all year round, and it definitely has this mass appeal vibe to it. In terms of the presentation, I like the tennis themed or tennis inspired presentation. Tennis racket handle for the cap here. You have the tennis ball towards the base there. So I like the attention to detail, the coloration of the liquid inside the bottle. My final verdict on this fragrance is, if you are in the market for a fragrance that is going to be appreciated by a whole lot of people, something that will garner compliments, something that makes an awesome office fragrance, something that you can wear pretty much no matter what the occasion is, just on a casual basis, look no further than Lacoste Match Point. However, if you are looking for something that is super unique, very different and daring and original, and is doing something outside of the box that has never been done before, you are not going to find it here. But at the end of the day, I do think that this is a very pleasant and very easy to wear fragrance. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for tuning in. That was my review of Lacoste Match Point, the brand new release for 2020. If you own or have tried this fragrance, please go ahead and let me know what you think. Leave a comment down below. Also, please don't forget to subscribe to this channel for future videos. All you have to do is click on that red button in the corner. And of course, while you're at it, make sure to enable notifications by clicking on the bell. Thanks again for watching. I love you all, and we'll see you next time. Bye.